like this. Maybe I need to put something there so that it comes out and has a lot of space to hang down. I have two other ones that I'm not sure if they will stay like this. No, it has to be visible. Okay, so for these shapes, I just use newspaper. I rip out parts of the newspaper and then I put it on top of stones. And the stones there is a little bit of foil around the stone so that I can later get it back. And here there's wallpaper glue, and this is the simple glue that I use. It dries relatively fast and it doesn't leave any shiny varnish. So very simple household items.
These are going to fit onto this creature on either side. This kind of general military kind of authoritarian thing, and then I'm going to suspend these, take these down, possibly across the room, but maybe connecting up with some words related to our dialogue, mine and Ines's dialogue. So possibly out of these will come some text and creep in across the room and meet up with her installation. So that's what I'm doing today. It's mounting these, maybe extending that a bit, making it look a bit more animated.
Will the pieces of paper be attached to the epaulet, or will it be hidden underneath?
These pieces?
No, the ones you said that are going to extend onto the wall.
They'll come off this. I'll extend this.
Okay.
So these will be much longer, kind of flowing out or flowing in, however you want to see it. The power, extending the power or creating the monster. It's a two-way street.
Did you guys decide, or did you decide if you were going to use your email exchange? And how you're going to incorporate the email exchange?
Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. So I've actually got some text which I'm going to print out as it was written to me. But it keeps changing. The dialogue keeps changing. There's new meaning. The walls has now kind of become a bit of a struggle with language. The inability to express oneself, the frustration with having to communicate in a different language and not being able to find your voice, and that kind of frustration, which possibly kind of filters onto the wall like a kind of, I called it a wall of Babel.
Instead of the tower.
Instead of the tower, it's just the wall of Babel. But yeah, so fitting in with Ines's idea, or reacting to it, responding to it, with her keeping her stories close to her body and actually trying to filter out what is her story and what is not her story, what her truth is influenced by, and if that's accurate. So that, coming back to a frustration with not being able to potentially communicate. So there's lots in the mix.
So these two pieces are new since the last time we were in here?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed, when I saw this piece, I quite enjoyed it. It looked so peaceful, because we worked on doing this on her face together, and I wasn't too sure what she was going to be doing with them, how it was going to be growing out of this. And then once again, I see she's got her roots coming out of her identity, but I also imagine the viewer wouldn't really know it's her to start off with, so not knowing that it's the artist and seeing these word part egg things, these thoughts, these stories coming out, and here surrounded, almost like a person in a beehive of sort of words, nuggets of stories. Yeah, I find it very interesting. Quite a contrast to the other side of the room.
Masks are the masks you made in your studio?
Yeah, we cast Ines' head just using gypsona bandages. Well, I think Ines has worked with, obviously her work incorporates a lot of her understanding of her identity, how I see it. So she wanted to incorporate a bit of literally bringing herself into her work. So she'd made masks before, but not as accurate as this. I mean, this is still not quite as accurate as it could be, but it is paper mache. So we just, wrapped her head up in a studio. And I mean, this is like the third time I've met Ines. So it was quite intimate, quite bizarre. I could have basically ransacked the house and ran off with Apfelstrudel. But she was sitting in a studio with Vaseline on her face, and I put on these bandages and waited about 10 minutes for it to set, and then it was quite an interesting process. And she, I think, initially felt a bit uncomfortable, but she said it was quite comforting after that.
So she has a plaster mask at home, and then she's building these off that plastic mask?
She has a gypsona mold, that she would reproduce these likenesses of or out of. And I particularly enjoy this one here. To me, this resonates. I don't know, I haven't understood it for myself completely, but there's something about it that just resonates with me. This kind of communication of the closed mouth with this feeder of information coming into kind of potato third eye, whatever, of these closed, peaceful looking heads. The communication and the dialogue between the two is very interesting. I haven't quite worked out how I feel about the mini-me, but I'm enjoying it. I mean, that on its own for me is quite a strong piece. And I quite like what happens with the tape. But I might still do the doggy in the window idea, but the more you restrict this, the minute I put a piece of tape onto this, it's going to restrict the movement. So at the moment, the freedom, I like that kind of freedom. So we'll see. I might just do something very simple, because I mean, as long as this, if it's not going to move, then I would make more of a sculptured like swan neck. But because I want it to move, it's not going to have it coming out of the shoulders bend that I initially envisaged. So yeah, I think I'm just going to do a very simple construction. This almost reminds me of snails' eyes, when the snails' eyes start forming and popping out. Growing a limb. I'm going to leave these kind of strips dangling there, almost like a bit like it's decomposing and falling apart. And then I need a bit of support for this from the ceiling, because it's become a technical problem. I don't have enough. Theoretically I need a metal rod coming out here, but because it's paper mache and I don't have a rod, and it's also growing as I construct it, I'm going to have to suspend this from the ceiling, a bit like over there. Oh.
So what do we need?
So you've got your drill, and I need healing hooks, you can call them hooks, and your gut. Some gut. You don't call it gut.
No, because it sounds like you want my stomach.
Yeah.
Oh, you make me feel I want to work again with paper. I should make a sculpture in my new flat.
So versatile. You can make anything.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you just pick it up from everywhere.
You can create something out of absolutely nothing. Bit of cardboard, paper, lying next to the road, and you can, it's as limited as your imagination.
I was using for example, for making sculpture, like the face of the creature I was doing, I was blowing a balloon and then wrapping with paper and glue, and then let's see what's happening. Normally the balloon was going to collapse, and then what's come out was just a collapsed mass of paper that was giving the face of the sculpture, or
so you didn't let it keep its shape, just
I was just like, okay, let's see what come
that's
from.
a nice idea.
And it was amazing because I would just let the material take its own form without really pushing too much.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
I really like this these long fringes. They're longer than I expected. And that's somehow Allun always does that. He always surprises me. It's always bigger than I expected, and there's always more of it. I like that it's still quite colorful. I wonder what he will do with it. Yeah, he will be like this. But will the colors remain, or will he paint them over? Although that naturally also appeals to me. This kind of white, but you can still see text behind it, you can still see what it was. Because that's the same what I do.
How about how he fixed the neck? He was telling me that he's going to leave it, he's contemplating leaving it rough.
Yeah, maybe he should, because then it will still move.
Oops.
And to me it doesn't disrupt anything if it's not fully connected. It's fine. And I think it's also a good one to make the bubbles burst, that there's a connection. There's a connection, and it's communicated, but maybe not in a traditional way of going from mouth to ear to brain, but more direct.
Well, is this Allun and you, or is this just two hypothetical people, or is this... And who's that little person on top of the other person's head?
I don't really know.
Is that...
But it's like the inner voice that is watching over everything, seeing everything, commenting everything. And then there's also this connection, like basically what is said here is connection, and. And I got this idea because of his piece. First they were separate, and then I thought, hey, somehow they need to be connected, and it's got to start at the mouth, because this is where this piece is all about, the mouth. So yeah, there is that relation.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted a specific angle, and it's not playing along.
Are those the ones that were earlier that you had and you were thinking about putting on there?
Yeah, last time when you were not here, I brought several of those pieces, but I forgot the yarn, so it had to wait until today.
And so it goes from the fronts to the...
Yeah, and I think that later on it could extend into probably you need
a hook.
a bit of, yeah, something. We'll see. But it's more massive. And then you can no longer say that my pieces are small and his is big.
Wanting to push images. Do you want images in this?
Not necessarily. Maybe
Because
it would be interesting to have like this mouth coming up or something like in between.
But then what I'll do is maybe I'll start taking shots of, because you've put lots of thought into what words you're using. So I'll shoot like drama, Fluchtling, einfach. We'll use some of your words from your pieces in between.
Yeah, you could. And then make the contrast so strong that maybe just the
word
words,
comes out,
yeah.
and there's a little bit of menace, or and even like a crossword word, you imply words where words aren't. You infer. Okay, so we use both our pieces, and then I need to put maybe some words on, because I quite like the sale. Things going for cheap. So photograph textiles of each work, and then add to that some of our conversation that we've had.
Yeah. And I would get too fancy with the
typography.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just keep it simple, or it could even be handwriting. But maybe that's already too fancy.
Well, okay.
Well, try it out. To the back side so that it will,
okay.
I can stick it better to the wall, because now it's a little bit it's not straight. So I think I will come back Monday probably. I hope I have made more of those shapes by then, so it will be more voluminous. And yeah, I'm also working on the jewelry.
What day is Monday? 15th?
Yes.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day, because I won't see you before then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll show you my... This is my prototype. My first... which I might include. I mean, this is, I think, is strong enough on its own, but possibly this could echo somewhere along the line. I know Ines is bringing her piece across to mine, which come to about here.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, this could be like a mini, could be like an alien. Mini kind of frustration at not having a voice, or, your story isn't my story. Yeah, I'm not too sure if this is going to go up. It looks too much like a carnival float. I quite like at the moment it looks like a vulture on a carcass that's defending its meal, chasing other predators away. But and it's more so if I start doing this. But also the idea was to try, and because Ines is trying to infect me with her potato word things, I'm going to try and infect her with my subtle forms of spiky epaulet, full persuasion. I don't know. So it might go across into her pieces before she takes over the whole room. I also don't want to take over Ines's section too much, but I can really...
Remember the video machines up there?
This is true. But potentially these tentacles can reach right across, and I can take over the entire room with this. Upstage her completely. Yeah, she's kind of these little whisper things before you know it, you're sitting with like the warts of words on your face. So yeah, this will also be like a strange timeline.
How did you get this to stick?
2 rods that are off this.
Okay.
You can see the one. I was going to put huge big sort of nails nailing it onto, but that's kind of saying something else in a way. So yeah, unfortunately I can maybe still hide that, maybe I can pull it up. It's not always good to see the workings of how something is put together. I'll try and disguise that. But yeah, this is meant to be sinewy and sort of the head's been torn away from the body, and this is, if you put your hand in there you can actually feel the mushy.
Do you think people will put their
throat.
fingers in there?
Well, if they come out, you'll have blood on their hands. So at least it's still got a bit of movement.
Actually, has quite a bit of movement.
Yeah. If someone does bump it, it's fine. I don't mind a bit of interaction. But yeah, I think I just need to work out what's happening on the video, and then potentially I can go up this way as well, not cover the screen, or I can start sticking it onto here, like a web.